Battle Through the Heavens God, The Flame Emperor Chapter 151, 7 Minutes Big Zero World. Have you been conditioned? The Golden Dragon King also obviously found that Xiaoyan had withdrawn from the cultivation state, and turned his head to ask. Yeah. Saying that, Xiaoyan also got off the bed and walked towards his master, the Golden Dragon King. Master, you are hesitant to say anything, do you? Have something on your mind? Xiaoyan walked up to his master, the Golden Dragon King, poured him a cup of tea and said, I didn't want to tell you, but the kid with the sword also said something before, so I'll tell you more carefully. The Golden Dragon King also took a sip of tea and speak. Yeah. Xiaoyan was also quite happy about this. Although Wang Zhong said something about Suan 3 days, how could what Wang Zhong said be as well informed as his master the Golden Dragon King? Human beings are primates of all things. Although they are inferior in physique to monster beast, they are superior to primates with wisdom. In the ancient times, your human ancestors, in order to pursue the idea of longevity, countless generations of wise people went forward one after another, devoting a lifetime of energy, studying hard, and constantly improving, and finally created a way to cultivate douqi. That's how you practice douqi today. I have to say that you humans are really smart and know how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. In ancient times, the status of human beings was only slaves, allegiance to all kinds of ancient powerful beast, but in your human beings with hard work, you can understand some of the creations of the world, master the tyrannical power as a mortal, and use the power of various secret treasures and powerful weapons to shock the sky. But so far, no one dares to know for sure about immortality in the true sense, but there are some peak powerhouses who stand on various continents. A long life with the same life as heaven and earth. On the Dode continent, the vast expanse is boundless. In addition to humans and monsters, there are also some unknown wild places. Most of the wild places are dangerous with mountains and rivers, many ferocious beasts and birds of prey, and many evil miasma poisons. There are countless unknown monsters and ghosts hidden in it, cultivating the body in the place where the sun and flames are hidden, in order to transform into a human form. Therefore, there are innumerable mysteries vaguely hidden on the Dode continent. Among them, there are many people, Buddhas, deists, demons, monsters, and ghosts. They can tolerate and fear anything. It's just these supernatural things that are mainly formed by cultivation. Often hidden in the mountains and rivers, it is not known. The Golden Dragon King also took a sip of tea and said. Xiaoyan was also surprised when he heard the words. Obviously, he did not know such important news, and it was not difficult to hear from the words of his master, the Golden Dragon King, that in addition to humans and monsters, there were many mysterious places and way of cultivation practices on Dode continent. Humans, Buddhists, deists, demons, monsters and ghosts. However, the cultivation methods of these are the same. After all, they are all based on cultivation in human form. What I want to tell you is also related to this. The so-called Daqian world is a 7-point Daqian. It's divided into 7 realms. They are the human realm, the Buddha realm, the deist realm, the demon realm, the beast realm, the ghost realm and the heaven realm. The Golden Dragon King also said, Isn't it the great 1,000 worlds? How could it be transformed into the 7 worlds? Xiaoyan's pupils shrank tightly upon hearing this. In those ancient times, it was indeed divided into 1,000 worlds, but now there are some powerful enough powerhouses born in the 7 worlds. They broke through the current plane, gathered together and made an oath, so they separated their respective world unified. It's said to be unification, but in fact it's just drawing enough power of belief from the lower realm to make them follow the rumored battle god realm. But how can the Do God be so easy to achieve? In other words, the Dode continent can be regarded as a branch of the human world. Each world is composed of 3 planes with countless upper, middle, lower planes. The Douqi continent where you and Tuoshi are located can only be regarded as a lower plane at best, and this Dode continent is enough to be called an upper plane. The Golden Dragon King also said solemnly. Xiaoyan was also dizzy when he heard this. Obviously these things exceeded his understanding, and he immediately rubbed his forehead with his hands. It's still too early to tell you this, but I just want to remind you that the Xiao clan you belong to has provoked a lot of enemies, and you also have the blood of the Xiao clan flowing in you, so your responsibility is becoming more and more important. Moreover, Tuoshi and I also have a blood feud with some old monsters in the 7 realms. The Golden Dragon King said. His eyes became deep. Xiaoyan also stared blankly at his master Golden Dragon King. Obviously, he had never seen such an appearance since he met his master Golden Dragon King. Hey, really? I remembered something unpleasant. The Golden Dragon King also suddenly smiled at Xiaoyan. Master, you don't have to worry too much. You are a teacher for one day and a father for a lifetime. Xiaoyan also said softly. When the Golden Dragon King heard the words, he wanted to say something, but he saw that Xiaoyan suddenly had a different feeling in front of him. This feeling is exactly the same as that of the fledgling Tuoshi. You kid. Don't worry, Tuoshi, your disciple is also my disciple, and I will definitely pass it on. The Golden Dragon King also said in a voice that could only be heard by himself. In a distant space, there is a huge hall. The hall is splendid, with many seemingly expensive jewels, and 7 beads support the entire hall. On the seat of the splendid Golden Hall Master, a seemingly weak woman was sitting quietly with her eyes closed. What's up? Are you uncomfortable again? Said a blonde man walking towards him. I'm fine, since the World Master retreated, I always feel like someone is spying on us. The woman also showed a seductive smile. Who is it? You're actually spying on the secrets of my human world. The blonde man also shot a ray of light from his eyes and shouted loudly while staring into the distance. After swept away to no avail, his eyes softened again, and then he gently picked up the woman sitting above the master. Just as he was about to walk, a red figure appeared out of thin air. Deputy World Lord. The big thing is bad. Someone from the Xiao family in the immortal cage has escaped. The blonde man's original soft eyes also seemed to have undergone a major change, instantly revealed a fierce light. Damn it. Didn't I ask you to keep an eye of them at any time? Give me all the power to move the human world. The people of the Xiao family must find, otherwise. The blonde man said that he didn't continue talking. Yes. The red figure was also in a cold sweat when he heard the words, but the reputation of this deputy world master is. The world master said before the retreat that the people of the Xiao clan would not be imprisoned so easily. What are you going to do now? The woman also blinked and looked at the blonde man. I have my own way, the blonde man said. What's the matter with you? The Xiao family is not so easy to deal with. Moreover, there seem to be some people on Dochi continent who broke through Dodi and promoted to Dodi continent. Don't you need to send someone to encircle and suppress them? The woman also muttered to herself. However, merely Dodi, I can kill it with my hand. Now it's better for Xiao to go after the fleeing Xiao clan. This Xiao clan is really dead. The blonde man also said viciously, then put down the beauty that was like glue in his hand, and hurriedly left the hall. There should be no more today. I can't figure out the dizziness, and I will continue to add. Chapter 152, In Trust. Master, don't worry, I won't let you down. Xiaoyan also said imposingly. Hearing this, the Golden Dragon King looked at Xiaoyan's scorching eyes, but also felt relieved and sipped his tea carefully. Suddenly the body of the Golden Dragon King's soul state flickered violently. Rather than saying that the Golden Dragon King was originally a body in a state of soul, it is better to say that a mark on the Golden Dragon King's finger flickered and dimmed. Although Xiaoyan didn't know the body of the Golden Dragon King, he also knew from the passage that the Golden Dragon King's strength was definitely extraordinary, so the Golden Dragon King in the soul state did not have the shape of a dragon, but was just like ordinary human. The Golden Dragon King's originally relieved eyes also shrank his pupils tightly, and then he stared at the light mark on his palm. This light mark. I remember that it was an agreement between me and them before they were caught. As long as this light seal lights up, the Golden Dragon King can capture their specific location. Could it be that they escaped? The Golden Dragon King also seemed to have sensed something, and then said in a voice that could only be heard by himself. Because the imprint on the Golden Dragon King's hand now is impressively possessed by the Dragon Clan, and can sense each other's light imprint at the specific location, but Xiaoyan doesn't know that. Is the position of the light seal constantly moving? It seems that I will meet them later. But Xiaoyan, this kid has to be tight. Otherwise this strength is. After thinking about it, the Golden Dragon King regained his composure, but Xiaoyan could find that his master, who used to be listless in the past, is now in the eyes. There is actually a trace of excitement that is difficult for ordinary people to detect. Master, are you alright? Xiaoyan obviously didn't know the light seal on his master's Golden Dragon King's hand, so he could only ask. It's alright, it's just that his power has recovered a little bit. The Golden Dragon King also made a random excuse to fool him. I will pay close attention to the matter of refining the body. Although Xiaoyan found out that his master, the Golden Dragon King, was different, he didn't have enough strength, and the master wouldn't talk about it, so he didn't make fun of himself. The matter of refining the body is not in a hurry. The most urgent task now is to find a way to cultivate spiritual power, so that you can start to learn the accomplishments of a battle formation master. One more thing is, since it's going to soon in 3 days, then we have to try to find that holy flame. The Golden Dragon King also said slowly. Hearing this, Xiaoyan was also overjoyed. The holy flame was undoubtedly more powerful than the heavenly fire in his body, and at the same time, it was more rare. If Xiaoyan were to find it alone, it would undoubtedly be like finding a needle in a haystack. But fortunately, his master, the Golden Dragon King, knew about one of the holy flames, and that holy flame was located within Suan 3 days. After you pass the test and join the super sect, you will start working. Until then, the Golden Dragon King looked at Xiaoyan with interest and smiled. Master, shall I join that super sect? Is it still burning incense pavilion? Hearing that, Xiaoyan also asked. After all, these 9 super sect are quite powerful, and for some reason, Xiaoyan can always feel that his master, the Golden Dragon King, must be with someone within the Suan 3 days. There is some inevitable relationship between denominations. Burning Incense Pavilion is a very special sect. It is different from other sect. Other sect mainly focus on cultivating doqi or puppet skills, but this Burning Incense Pavilion focuses on cultivation, supplemented by cultivation, and cultivation of mind. For this, the disciples admitted by the Burning Incense Pavilion are divided into 2 types. One is the outer disciple, who learns qin, chess, calligraphy, and painting, the 4 books and 5 classics, poetry, and music. The second is the inner disciple, who learns doqi and do skills, and becomes a real powerhouse, slaying demons. In addition to the demons, the peace of the party is guaranteed. Therefore, the disciples of the Burning Incense Pavilion are not necessarily all cultivators, but the Burning Incense Pavilion is famous regardless of whether it is an inner or outer disciple. I mean, the Golden Dragon King. Yeah. Xiaoyan's eyes lit up. It was obvious that what his master Golden Dragon King said was much more detailed than what Wang Zhong said. But master, what about slaying demons and eliminating demons? Xiaoyan also asked in doubt. There are some connections in the 7 realms, and even if someone manipulates them, they cannot cut off the connection in these 7 realms. And among these 7 worlds, the human world has the largest number. Therefore, the forces of the demon world and the ghost world are thinking about invading some planes in the human world to strengthen their own strength. So, what I want to say is that there are some passages to the demon world and the ghost world in these Suan 3 days. Although it was sealed by the strong powerhouses 10,000 years ago, the power of the seal is getting weaker and weaker now, so you have to be more careful. The Golden Dragon King said. Yeah. Hearing this, Xiaoyan also became serious. Obviously he had never dealt with so-called ghosts and demons. The only entrance to the devil world in Suan 3 days is at the bottom of the Wanqi River, which is very dangerous. The Wanqi River is full of monsters, all of which are very powerful monsters. The cultivation base is so high that it is not an exaggeration to say that it is shocking. Since ancient times, some monsters in the demon world have broken into Suan 3 days several times, bringing endless blood to the upper plane of Suan 3 days, causing countless innocent deaths, and making the super powerhouses in Suan 3 days angry greatly. They joined forces, and finally forcibly drove the demon from the devil world back, and sealed the passage between the devil world and Suan 3 days. Therefore, the legend of the demon world's invasion of Suan 3 days has a history. The legendary ghost world is said to have its entrance in the ghost town of Zide, but it is very hidden. In the ghost realm, there are countless ghosts, resentful spirits overflowing, and the yin wind roars, which is very terrifying. Ordinary people will undoubtedly die as soon as they enter the ghost realm. Even if the ordinary Do De Peak powerhouse enters, it is also more fortunate. and less fortunate. It is the most vicious region in the world since ancient times. And the demon world is the gathering place of all the monsters in the world. There are countless monsters and beasts with profound cultivation bases. To put it in layman's terms, the monsters reach a certain strength, but they are promoted to the demon world. The demon world is also considered to be stable. Rarely invades the human world, and generally does not communicate with the human world. It is said that there are very few people who know about the entrance of this space, so it is extremely mysterious. Among the 7 realms, the human realm is the main one. The 6 worlds other than the human world are actually 6 dimensions. In fact, they are only some specific dimensions. Compared to the human world, they are quite small. And every space depends on the human world to exist, and is connected with the human world. In fact, they all belong to the human world. It's just that there is an invisible barrier between them and the human world, which separates them and forms a unique space that is different from the human world. Hearing this, Xiaoyan was also surprised. The so-called extraterritorial evil race is this demon world. Master, some forces from the demon world and the ghost world dare to invade Su in 3 days, so aren't they afraid of causing a 3-world war? No, you're wrong. The power of the demon world and the ghost world to invade the human world is only the mainstay, and the number of each world must be maintained on a balance, so this kind of invasion is also a way of survival of the fittest, so the control of the 7 worlds and it didn't interfere much with it. The real power at the top of the 7 realms checks and balances each other, so the 3 realms war is impossible. The Golden Dragon King also said slowly. Yeah. Xiaoyan also felt relieved when he heard the words, and then closed his eyes to recuperate. He was getting closer and closer to that Su in 3 days, and he had to return to his peak period. Chapter 153, Arrive. During this month, Xiaoyan has also been reclusive, and has been in seclusion in his room to adjust his state. After all, although he understands some of the rules of Su in 3 days, it is always better for his strength to return to the peak, so that he can remain unchanged. Xiaoyan did not expect such a big after effect of the explosion of the clones condensed by using soul power before in Wuchen. It seems that in the future, using soul power to condense clones should be extra careful. Otherwise, if the power of the soul in the future damages the foundation, then not only will Xiaoyan's strength be stagnant, but even his medicine refining skills will be stagnant. At the level of Dote, it is not surprising that a retreat can be as little as a few months, or as many as a few years. The 1-month period was also slowly coming to an end during Xiaoyan's retreat. Xiaoyan, who was still in seclusion in the room, also slowly exhaled, and then opened his only closed eyes. It's finally recovered. After he finished speaking, he felt that the energy in his body had recovered to its peak, and the power of his soul had also swept through his body. According to Xiaoyan's current estimation, his current strength is also at the peak of the 3-star Dote, and he is only 1 step away from the 4-star Dote. Master, the holy flame you mentioned. Hey. Xiaoyan has also been thinking about the holy flame that his master Golden Dragon King said was hidden within the Su in 3 days. Yen has evolved his own cultivation technique. Even though this heavenly rank cultivation technique is not trivial on the Dochi continent, Xiaoyan can still feel the difficulty in Dote continent now. If a battle is not resolved quickly, and if it drags on, then it's only be Xiaoyan who will suffers in the end. You kid. The Golden Dragon King also laughed loudly when he heard that. During the almost a month of your retreat, I also tried to communicate with that holy flame, but I don't know why. It seems that I was blocked by an invisible force. The Golden Dragon King also pondered. Hearing this, Xiaoyan's eyes sank. If this holy flame was blocked by a layer of invisible power, then if it could still be blocked by the power of his master, the Golden Dragon King, that person's strength is also extraordinary. But you don't have to worry too much. Maybe the distance is too far, so the induction is a little weak, but don't worry, I can feel it. This holy flame is also an ownerless thing now, and your worries are superfluous. My current state of soul is less than 1/10 of my peak strength, so being blocked doesn't mean that person is strong, so this is normal. The Golden Dragon King also laughed. Xiaoyan also felt relieved when he heard the words, and then retracted the soul restraint he had arranged. The ferry boat was originally driving in the dark space passage, but after Xiaoyan opened his eyes, a ray of light slowly appeared. Feeling the dazzling brightness, Xiaoyan also put his eyes on him and muttered to himself, "Is it finally coming?" Just as his eyes were on the exit of the space passage, Xiaoyan suddenly felt an unprecedented strong douqi from that bright place. Such a strong aura was something Xiaoyan had never seen before. Feeling this situation, Xiaoyan also got up, then opened the window in the room and looked outside. The originally dark space channel also suddenly disappeared. The birds and beasts of the forest continent also appeared in front of Xiaoyan. It's really strong douqi. However, why is this douqi different from what I had absorbed before? Xiaoyan's huge soul power also felt the abundant douqi of this land, and he said something strange after absorbing a little bit of it. It's better to say that it is douqi rather than douqi, because these rich douqi are specially designed for douqi to absorb and cultivate. At the level of douqi, it is quite difficult to absorb douqi to increase his cultivation. It is even more difficult for the douqi to break through the current state. That's why ordinary douqi is like a drop in the bucket for douqi to absorb more, so this douqi is undoubtedly much stronger than ordinary douqi, and it is more suitable for douqi strong person to absorb and cultivate. After all, this douqi is the greatest treasure known as the douqi rank. The Golden Dragon King also laughed. Hearing this, Xiaoyan also nodded. No wonder he couldn't be promoted to douqi in douqi continent anyway. It turns out that a strong douqi must absorb douqi qi. From this so-called emperor qi is enough to the importance of the strong fighting emperor. The so-called emperor qi also has another title on the douqi continent, the origin qi of the emperor. Wake up, get ready, it will be soon 3 days soon. Just when Xiaoyan was surprised by the emperor's voice, a voice also entered their minds. The source of this voice is hoodoo. When everyone heard that, they also packed up their belongings a little, and then walked out one after another. Hoodoo saw that everyone appeared equally well, and he nodded with satisfaction. After all, when he was picking up the people before, someone assassinated each other, which caused the task of his lead to fail. In half a day, we will arrive at Suan 3 days. When the time comes, you will follow me to the destination of this reception. After speaking, he closed his eyes. I heard that we didn't go directly to Suan 3 days. Before joining Suan sect, we have to conduct a test and selection. And the location of testing and selection is the end of our trip. Where are we going to meet countless other geniuses who are also from the Suanling continent. But I also believe that there will be a more exciting stage. Wang Zhong also said. Then let's see who will stand at the top of this trial. Sun Ming is also not weak at all. Wang Zhong can't ask for it. Xiaoyan also responded. Obviously this will be a brand new beginning. Suan 3 days. I'm really looking forward to it. Xiaoyan muttered to himself. The few people on the side also saw Xiaoyan and the others were so arrogant, and their blood was boiling. They all had different looks in their eyes. Obviously, they had already made plans in their hearts. In Suan's highest place, a figure with a long sword on his back also stood on it. The mountains here are dangerous, the mountains are high, the wild beasts are frequent in the mountains, and there are few people. It is a desolate place. But at the same time, it is also an extremely suitable place for cultivation. Are you all ready? The figure with the long sword on his back also said softly to the void. It's all ready, just wait for the people which hoodoo pick up to arrive, and then we can start. A respectful voice also twisted from the space and an old man in white appeared. That's good. Go down. The figure with the long sword on his back also said. Yes. The void space twisted and disappeared. The ghost world, the passage between the devil world and my Suan 3 days seems to have some different movements recently. I hope there will be some talented seedlings in this selection, otherwise my Wanjianman will want to. He said that he didn't continue talk. Chapter 154, The Place of Test Selection, Suan 3 days. Suan 3 days is the place with the largest population and the most powerful people on the Suanling continent. It is also the place with the most fertile land and resources. Because in these countless years, Suan 3 days has nurtured countless children of the heavens. Some of them have become overlords and established factions. However, with the invasion of some natural disasters or small-scale wars in other parts of the Suanling continent, some people have also been destroyed. After all, this is the place where the powerhouses of the Suanling continent gather. It is also possible to find Dao shelter here, and then multiply in the city. Therefore, there are also some villages and small families with relatively few people. Most of them are attached to Suan 3 days. Under the super sect of the sky, there are some exceptions to be self-sufficient. Suan 3 days is mostly a mountain range full of emperor energy. Every mountain is huge, and there are many legends of all kinds within the mountain, such as the love between people and ghosts, and the 3 lives and 3 generations are continuing their love. In the mountains of these peaks, in addition to the presence of monsters, there are also hidden demons and ghosts who broke through the seal and entered Black Suan 3 days before, and participated in the attack on Suan 3 days. They escaped by luck when they were sealed, but even so, they didn't dare to provoke human beings too much. After all, if they angered those powerhouses within Suan 3 days, their fate would also be. However, although these monsters dare not provoke any super sects, they have caused huge damage to ordinary people. After all, most of the ordinary people are of the docent level, and their aptitude is mediocre. It is quite difficult to deal with these powerful monsters, so for the sake of safety, some people built mountain temples around the mountains to seek the protection of the mountain gods. Years have passed, and there are more and more mountain temples in the mountains. Perhaps the mountain gods have sensed the will of the people and thus show their power. In the past 100 years, the people on this land have rarely had accidents. Respect is amazing. In this regard, the super sects within the 3 days of Suan are also helpless. Although they have sent a lot of manpower and material resources to encircle and suppress the remaining demons, ghosts, and monsters, I don't know why they can always cleverly avoid the encirclement and suppression, so this is also a big problem that plagues the super sects. In addition, Suan 3 days is also a blessed land. Each mountain has some secrets. It is rumored that each mountain has its own beautiful legend. In general, Suan 3 days can be summed up as 100,000 mountains. But in addition, there are still some unknown wild places, just where it belongs to the restricted area of human beings. Even though there are rumors that there are many treasures, but the strong people around the world do not dare to set foot easily. After all, the information about the wild places is also too rare. Treasure and life are obviously more important than the latter. This is Suan 3 days. The ferry also landed slowly on a flat lay. It's here, come with me. Hudu also opened his eyes and said, "Is this Suan 3 days?" Xiaoyan also muttered to himself. This is the outermost part of Suan 3 days, but the final destination of the people we are in charge of receiving and guiding will all come here, and people from the 9 super sects will be jointly responsible for a series of tests and selections. Only those who meet the standards will be selected. It is possible to enter the Suan 3 days to join the super sect, and if we fail, we can only return you to the same path. After speaking, he waved his hand, and a group of dochi was at the feet of the 9 people, following the leadership of Hudu. Toward to the ground, they slowly descended. The 9 people sitting cross-legged on the dochi light group also lit up with curiosity. Obviously, they all felt the strong dochi, and the 7 cities where they were located were countless times stronger. The dochi in the 7 major cities can also be called emperor chi, but its concentration is only a little stronger than the dochi on the dochi continent, so it is no wonder that a few people are so curious when they feel this strong emperor chi. Because based on their perception, they naturally knew that if they could absorb this rich imperial energy for a long time, it would be of great benefit to their cultivation. The crowd slowly descended on Hudu's dochi light group. During the process of their whereabouts, they suddenly discovered that they were looking into the distance from the place where they landed. Pieces of rolling mountain peaks rise and fall one after another. The trees in the peaks stand tall like giants in the sky, and the clouds and mists are like a fairyland on earth. Taking a closer look, the mist-like white gas seems to form a natural protective layer, slowly surrounding these mountains. In the mountains, you can also see some looming buildings. Presumably these buildings are sects. Xiaoyan also exuded the power of his soul and felt it carefully, and slowly he felt a lot of powerful aura from these mountains. Even the head of the Yu family, Yu, and the envoy Hudu in front of him were jumping off the beam in front of him. The clown is general, and there are some extremely obscure breaths looming. It is indeed the place where the powerhouses of the mysterious spirit continent gather. Xiaoyan also sighed involuntarily. Ha ha ha, that's natural. Hudu also appreciated Xiaoyan, so he responded, "Senior, what is this white mist, and my soul power doesn't seem to be able to sense it." Lu Yin was obviously also curious, and the little cold on her shoulders also exuded a look of joy and get excited. These white mists are the restrictions of various mountain peaks. Under the restrictions, no matter how powerful you are also prohibited from flying and stepping in the air, so all areas in Suan 3 days have a strong restriction. First, these mountains are the location of some sects, in order to protect some of their little-known secrets, even though the sect is not famous, but there is still some background, and secondly, it is also to resist the invasion of monsters. After all, Suan 3 days sky is a very fertile land, and it has made many monsters jealous. And every year, there are monsters that endanger some places, so in Suan 3 days, compared with the monsters and beast, the monsters are obviously more disgusting. Hoodoo also said, obviously he also has a grudge against these monsters and beast. Okay, let's go to the test now. After the test, we can rest for a few days. After a few days, it will be the so-called selection. I don't know how many people will be in your group this time. Hoodoo also saw what Lu Yin was about to ask, and stopped him. Hearing this, several people also nodded their heads. Although they were not in control of the ferry, the month-long journey also made them physically and mentally exhausted, but this was also true for Dode powerhouses. Does not affect the test at all. A few people were still in the air, and Xiaoyan was sharp-eyed. On the flat ground where their ferry was docked, a figure in blue clothes with the word puppet appeared early, as if he was waiting. Chapter 155, Mysterious Disappearance. Next, I will take you to test your talents. It's up to you to decide how many talents you can classify. After speaking, he looked at Xiaoyan with great interest. As soon as Hoodoo's voice fell, the Dochi light group riding on the 9 people slowly landed on the ground. As soon as everyone reached the ground, they immediately got up and stretched out. Who would have expected that when he turned his head, he saw a huge square 1,000 meters away, and behind the square were some quite exquisite buildings. Whether it was the square or the side of the building, there were some well-trained soldiers guarding it. Seeing this heavily guarded place, Xiaoyan didn't look too hard. Master Hu has worked hard. Master Hu, let's go and rest. It's just fine for these people to take it for the test. Watching Hoodoo and the 9 people slowly descend to the ground, the man who was standing on the ground wearing the word puppet in his clothes respectfully faced Hoodoo. No, it just so happens that I have to go too. Let's go together. Hoodoo also refused. On the one hand, there are people among these people who need his special attention. He also wants to know what kind of talent this Xiaoyan can be rated, and the 3rd rank should be reluctant. But even if it is a 3rd-class talent, he can get a lot of benefits. On the other hand, Hoodoo was also worried. After all, he still had some right to speak here. If something happened to the 2 of them, he wouldn't be able to explain it to Yu. After all, the 2 had a deadly friendship. Yeah. The man wearing the word puppet also replied softly, and then led the way in front. This is senior brother of the puppet mansion who is in charge of taking your test, and his name is Emo-chan. At a young age, he has reached the strength of a 4-star Dode, and his ability to manipulate puppets with one hand is not weak. Hoodoo also introduced to everyone. Hello, senior brother Emo. Several people present also said respectfully. After all, when you first came to the ramp, you must have some etiquette. Xiaoyan also discovered that although Emo-chan's strength is only in the initial stage of 4-star Dode, it is easy for him to deal with it, but he is from Puppet Mansion after all. It also felt quite exhausting. After all, since this puppet technique is stronger than his master, the Golden Dragon King, he is also highly praised. Emo-chan took the lead, Hoodoo was behind, Xiaoyan and the others followed them towards the huge square. Master Hu, you are already the last batch of people who have been picked up here, and all the people who have been picked up from other places have been tested until yesterday. Emo-chan also said. Hey, there's no way. After all, it's on the edge of our Suanling continent. It's to be expected that the back and forth will take a long time. Hoodoo also laughed. Master Hu has found a good seedling this time. Emo-chan also joked. Because everyone knows that picking up messengers is a tiring job, not to mention the boring time of going back and forth. On the way to pick up and lead, if you encounter some people with bad intentions attacking, it will not be worth the loss. However, as a price, as long as the envoy can find a disciple with third-class talent, the sect that the disciple joins in the future will also give the envoy some considerable compensation. Are you a good seedling? There are just a few. He also looked at the 9 people behind him, and laughed. How many people are there in our contact point this time? How many people are talented? Hudu also suddenly remembered and asked this. Mo Chen couldn't help being speechless when Hudu asked this question. This is some secret that can't be said. I really blame myself for this. However, the relationship between Uncle Hudu and the person in charge of our contact point seems to be good. I forgot all about it. I can't say it. Hudu also looked at Mo Chen and said, neither. Our takeover test site this time is divided into 36, and we are one of them. According to the statistics of yesterday, the total number of people who came here is 1,361. There are a total of 1,300 people who have passed the talent test. It is strange to say that there are 61 people who disappeared out of thin air. This can make the person in charge of our stronghold anxious. After all, our people can come here when they see it with their own eyes. I got off the ferry and walked towards the test site in the square, but I didn't find these 61 people. Mo Chen also frowned. Obviously this matter bothered them. This is a test and selection competition organized by the 9 super sects in the Suan 3 days. Whoever eats the guts of the bear, hart and leopard will not dare to be arrogant here, let alone grab it out of thin air in this heavily guarded stronghold and come to join the sect disciple. After all, the Dota continent is an upper plane, and it is not comparable to the Dochi continent. If a Dota powerhouse wants to break open space out of thin air, it is only necessary to reach the 6-star Dota and above. Huh? How come? I remember this kind of thing never happened before. Hudu also began to ponder. Because 61 people were missing, it was enough to show the importance of this matter. Hey, how can there be some residual aura similar to the ghosts in the ghost world? Although it is very weak, it seems that it has been covered up by people. Just when Xiaoyan heard that Mo Chen said that 61 people were missing, in the ring, his master Golden Dragon King also said suddenly and quietly. When Xiaoyan heard what his master Golden Dragon King said, he also rolled his eyes thoughtfully, and then followed Mo Chen and Hudu and walked towards the back of the square. Yura, who was on the side, passed by the place Xiaoyan had just had, and was suddenly dizzy, and then the mysterious rune on her forehead slowly emitted an inconspicuous light. Xiaoyan also kept an eye on Yura's state at all times, and just felt that something was wrong with Yura, and before she could ask any more questions, Yura fell to the ground as if she had collapsed. To say that it is late is fast. Xiaoyan, who has a quick eye and a quick hand, supports Yura and doesn't care about other things. The gentle power in his body is transmitted to Yura's body. After Xiaoyan's gentle power within her body, Yura's beautiful eyes moved slightly, and then she was dripping with sweat. Are you all right? Xiaoyan also said solemnly, obviously not knowing what happened to Yura. I'm all right, I just suddenly lost my strength for no apparent reason. I'm much better now, Yura also said. Then Yura also saw Xiaoyan's one hand supporting her shoulder, the other hand sending gentle power from her lower abdomen, so Yura turned red without even passing through her ears. It's fine, I'll help you go. Xiaoyan also looked at the tired Yura and said. Yeah, Yura also said softly. Oh, it's actually an automatic protector. It seems that the power of inheritance on this girl is really extraordinary. But looking at the power of inheritance, as I expected, it should be a life and death enemy with that ghost world. The Golden Dragon King also said to himself when he discovered Yura's sudden voluminous mark. Have you reported this to the above? Hudu obviously realized the importance of the matter, and his tone of speech changed. No, it was suppressed by our person in charge. Mo Chen was also frightened by this sudden momentum. Who is the person in charge here? Immediately? Take me to see him immediately. Hudu also shouted loudly, and then scolded him. This is a joke about other people's lives. Yes, it's your senior brother Fuye. Mo Chen quickly agreed. Fuye, take me to see him. What about these people? Go together. After the two of them finished speaking, they speeded up and walked towards an exquisite room at the back of the square. When everyone in the back heard the words, they also knew the importance of the matter, and immediately followed without.
Hi. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get updated on my latest video. Thank you for watching.